Kekana. Thank you very much, Grant. Just before we get things underway, let's please ensure our cell phones are on silent and we have all our devices ready. Coach, if we can get straight into it, a big match against Ahly, playing at home first. If you could just give us a summary of your thoughts ahead of the fixture on Saturday, please.
Well, obviously, it's an important moment. We're playing a Champions League semi-final, and let's say only the best ones arrive on this moment of the competition. So it's obviously an important moment, but what we really want is to go to the last stage of it and be able to play the final. So our thoughts are on there. We know that to beat a team like this, you need to make 2 very good games. Everybody knows what we spoke here when we played the fourth final. How important is this to identify how to play those games? What results can be important to take for the second leg, and believe that we can play to win both games. But play to win games like this is being clever the way you do it. So let's see how we go. Obviously, we know what we have on the other side, but also we know what we have on our side, and that's what we rely on our capacity to play this game on the limit. If we play it on the limit, we'll be closer. So let's hope we can do the right strategy, the right approach, play on our limit, and be.
Good afternoon, members of the media. Obviously, we understand what's at stake, the team that we're playing against, but within our group there's a lot of trust and belief in each other. I think the coach was emphasizing just yesterday how much this game or these 2 legs are going to be about the little details, and us applying ourselves quite well. We know how good and how well Ahly have done in the Champions League, and in the past 2-3 seasons, we've been limited to only this stage, so we've paid our school fees. I think we've matured enough to understand that we know what we need to do on the day. I think it's just about us applying ourselves, having the right attitude, fighting for the badge, so that we're able to get a positive result.
Thank you, Grant. Colleagues, it's your opportunity to ask questions. You could raise your hand, identify yourself as well as the publication you represent. Just for the sake of time, colleagues, if we can keep it to 1 question per media house, just in consideration of time and the rest of our colleagues.
Coach Lorenzo, Mamelodi Sundowns, can we just get an injury update ahead of the game? Who's back, who's unavailable?
I could not understand the question. I'm so sorry. There's a lot of echo on the system.
Just the injury update ahead of the game.
Okay. Injury update. We have Motiva that is for some time still on the process of integration on the team. So we have the little Mabena that also is under certain conditions. And all the other ones are on the process of recovering. So tomorrow we'll have a more detailed information on who is available to 100% make the game, and the conditions we get from everybody, so that we don't compromise their state for the second one. So that's tomorrow that we're going to decide. There's still some small details to see. In today's session, there were some players with some restraints, and only tomorrow we'll have the chance to understand if they will be available or no for the game. But as I said, it's important that we understand that we will not make decisions that can compromise the season of a player. There's still a lot to go, and there's a second match to play, so that's where we are standing now, so that we can understand where we can go or where we should hold ourselves and prepare the players for the second leg.
Thank you, Coach.
Jeremy from News 24. Coach, having been on the other side, what is it about South African clubs that makes it a challenge and why they've done so well against North African teams? And you look at the three who they beat to get here. And what do South African clubs need to do to get over the line? Because even though they've got a good record against North African teams, but when it matters, when it's the semis or final, we've lost to North African teams. Thank you.
Well, that's not a very simple question because I don't know exactly if it's that way. Because as we understand, for example, Sundowns has been able to beat Ahly in the past more than once. So I don't know if that's that true. We were able also to beat Esperance in the last round. So what I think that is important is that a Mamelodi Sundowns side should be in a level that we saw in this fourth of final with Esperance, a team that understands very well what to do in the pitch in the right moments, to be very, very wise, very intelligent. Because sometimes when you go too hungry on the pot is when you don't eat nothing. So that's usually when we see the dogs going all together at the same time at the pot. They split. They put out the food of the pot most of the time. You need to be balanced, you need to be strong, you need to be very competitive in the 4 moments of the game. You need to be very strong on the set pieces, you need to cope with the transitions on the opponent. That sometimes it's just letting you play to try to aggress in the right moment. So you need to have capacity to aggress them also. So there's also a level of risk in some moments you need to take, but a very strong team can understand these things. And that's the level of team that has been coping with the challenges here in the club and that we expect to see tomorrow on the pitch. We know that again it will be, as Grant said, a match of details, and those details we cannot miss them. We cannot miss them because we can be penalized as we in the recent past were. So we don't want that. We want to, if we have to lose, let's lose because they were better than us and accept that with sportsmanship. So, but that's another level. I believe that indeed we have more than the capacities to make the semi-final until the last minute. And if we'll be inside until the last minute, it means that we were strong. It means that we were very strong. And that's what we have to do.
Thank you, Coach.
Can I ask a question, Coach? Mazala from SABC Sport. First to Coach Cardoso. Do you see there's an advantage or disadvantage the second time now that your opponents are getting the second leg? And you did mention after Esperance that it took a while because they obviously set back, counting on the fact that they have the second leg. And Grant, from your perspective, is it always just the coach's instructions purely in a situation like that where as players you can see that they are not coming out, they are sitting too deep, you have to wait for the coach to tell you, at times as players you take the initiative to try and take the game to the opposition.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, obviously the coach will see it early and try to pass his message across, but also us as players, I think there's enough experienced players, to understand situations. So we also go with the feeling, and we're able amongst ourselves inside the pitch, to see what would work for us when there's such a low block. So it's a combination of both.
Let's see how the opponent will approach the game. Teams like the ones that are competing in this moment are teams that understand how to relate with the different moments of the game. So I believe the game will give different moments. Obviously, that playing home and away, being an advantage or a non-advantage is relative. It's really relative because it has also and a lot to do with the result from the first leg. Obviously that if we can get a positive result without goal suffer, for example, that puts pressure on them, because in any moment the goal from us in the second leg can be very difficult to cope with, especially if we also scored at home. That's what happened with the inexperienced match. We knew that despite we didn't score on the second leg, we knew that any goal from us would put the things drastically, almost impossible for them to cope with, even with the emotionality that would come over, especially if we would score first than them. But that doesn't, and I repeat as Grant said, that doesn't make the strategy. The strategy inside the pitch is done by the way the players also understand what's happening, because coaches don't play football. Coaches prepare the matches, try to give tools for the players, and then they execute the plans. And it's not a problem for me to tell that we wanted, for example, in the second leg in Esperance, we wanted to start very strong, pressing high. But the way we made the kickoff put us immediately in our half pitch. And from there we had 2 balls inside our box. A free kick, as you remember, that was an offside. Yeah, it was quite dangerous, but it was a clear offside. But so sometimes the game don't start the way even you want to make it, because the other side also plays, and sometimes small events can change a little bit the intention. What is important is how the team is capable to take the game in the way that was planned, even with some deviations in some moments, but how regularly you can take the game in that side. And then there's the moment the players release themselves to play, they get inspired, they can do things, and that's also what we as coaches need to rely, is their experience to cope with the different moments, to understand what to do. And we just try to give them small helps on the games, because this kind of games is very difficult to communicate with them, because there's a lot of people in the stands, they don't listen to us. So sometimes it's just by gestures that we try to give them some message, and at halftime we can help. So basically what we do is provide them as much information as the one we feel is necessary, not too much also, but the one that can give them tools to then play the game, to relate with themselves, how they defend, how they attack, what spaces probably they will give us, what are the characteristics of their players, how we can overcome situations in the different spaces of the pitch, how they can aggress us, how we should prevent that aggression the moment we lose the ball, how we need to reorganize ourselves. So small things that allow to take strategically the game to some point, but then it's up to them to play. Despite there are obviously details that we try to make them happen, because we believe that they give us advantage. And that is obviously the way where the coach tries to conditionate the game in a certain way. That's why you train also. That's considering those aspects. But then it's an open world of relations that happen inside the pitch, an open world of relations. There's also emotionality that sometimes when it's the wrong ones can affect the game. The good ones keep us in the right line also. So there are many things that we don't control that can happen. But I believe that the teams that express themselves in the best way, and the players that excel themselves also, are the ones that are the base of the group, of the work that we do. They also put something that is theirs on the pitch, and that's what I hope to have from my players tomorrow, is that they can also bring their best version on the pitch, that can also add a lot to what me as a coach can give to them.
Good afternoon, Coach. Good afternoon, Grant. In your opening statement, you said that you feel like this season you've matured a bit. Can you maybe just expand in relation to that? What makes you feel that this season is the year where you guys will, shake hands with Paradise and lift this trophy?
Thank you. What I mean by maturity is we've been in this competition and we've consistently reached this stage of the competition, and we fell short. I think we've accepted as a group, because a lot of us have been together for quite some time, where we lacked and what made us come up short or fall short, So I think with all that we've learned, and with Coach here, who was in the final last year, us coming together, I think for us gives us the confidence that we've learned from our past mistakes, and hopefully going into these 2 legs we'll be able to minimize those mistakes so that we give ourselves an advantage to get into the final.
Is there a question
obviously your opponent would analyze the team and they'll pick the mistakes that Suarez has made. How do you deal with that as a coach? How do you prepare him for a game like this? Is there any pressure on you to then make a change? How do you deal with that?
Look, the one that makes more mistakes is me. Before any player making mistakes, maybe I make a lot of mistakes. And the first mistake I do comes from the job I have is to choose players for the task. I have to choose 11. So when I choose 11, there are 20 something that already think that I made a mistake. And many people that also think that I made a mistake. Mistakes are part of the game. There's no, well, of course there are goals that come out of something fantastic that doesn't relate with a mistake from the opponent. But most of them become of small things that didn't happen and could have happened. I don't stay attached to the past regarding that. We work to become better. Everybody works to become better. We trust that the players we have inside the group are the ones that can cope with the difficulties that every match brings, with the challenges that come from there. But obviously there's always an emotional state that we need to bring up to the players so that they can perform in the proper way. As you understood, whatever happened in the last match, there was still time to be played and we could not solve the question. And it's not because of that mistake, but another mistake that we lost. I don't want to speak about the last game because we should always also regard the future, and I'm this kind of coach that after the game finishes I always go back on what could I have done better in that context. So I always relate with my responsibility, because I can only get better if I work on what I control. Despite in the moment of the competition I need to address whatever happens. But after, my job is go back and see, okay, this happened, what I could have done to prevent it, what I could have done after that could help me to be better. Because otherwise I will stay the same. I will not develop myself. I will give the cause of everything that happened to me to someone else. And the other ones I cannot work on. I can only work on myself. So that's how I relate with that, and how I can influence my people to become better. So that's exactly how we deal with emotional setbacks that can happen with any player, anyone on the structure. Because, and before a mistake, maybe there are many others that happen. That's how we should relate with the things. Work better, work harder, look in the front, be stronger, grow out, and there's nothing more to do than that one. And support people. I'm here to be supportive, not to be killing anyone. There's a good expression in football that says, even if I don't like all the players, I should love them all. And that's how I relate as a coach with my players.
Thank you, Coach. Do you have takers for the last two questions? I'm sure, and let's start there at the back. Close with. Yeah, start.
Greetings, Coach, and Grant. This is Eric Mitchell from XFM. Coach, sincerely you mentioned the fact that you take a straight bullet regarding your team selection. Are we likely perhaps to see the great Shikabala tomorrow, particularly looking at the experience that you have? And I'm going to pose a question to you.
Let's keep it to one question, guys, please. One question. Let's keep it to that, yeah. So we'll answer that and then we'll go to the next.
I could not understand also.
He was asking if we'll see Temka as well tomorrow.
Look, Temba is growing his condition. I told you that we had a plan in order to bring the players that were injured. Because now Temba is not injured. Temba is training normally and develop his condition so that he can play. If it will be tomorrow or in the next game or in the following one, I don't exactly know. That he's available, yes. That for sure he still has some restraints, mostly eventually on a capacity to play a 90-minute match in the level like a Champions League match. For sure he has. Let's see how he can help us, and let's see how we introduce him in the dynamic of the team in the best way. That's what we've been doing in the last weeks. We are pretty happy. Not only him, but Motobi. Not exactly the same level, but coming back. And I believe that until the end of the season they will be still very important for us. That's our concerns, of course.
Thank you, Coach. We'll take the last question and then we'll call it a day.
Shikabala, Joseph from Sports. Yeah, Coach. I'm looking at how, taking from what you just said, Coach, that you are the one who needs to be blamed for your mistakes. But how do you then pick up the whole team, looking at the attack that you've been getting from the fans based on what happened on the last game, but then motivating them to go into a bigger game that is the Ahly one? How do you take us through that transition as the players, as the fans, as the club, to still have confidence in what you guys can deliver?
Look, it's important that as much as we respect our fans, our motivation must be intrinsic. So our biggest motivation comes from ourselves. And when you believe yourself, when there's trust as a value in the group, when there's belief in everything you do, and there's a past of good things done by the team, and mostly related to the match that was so clearly detailed as the previous one, it's more easy to overcome it. Obviously that when you lose an objective and when you are not on the final moment of that, where you define the competition, that is Nedbank Cup, that before we played 4 matches and you go back on the energy you put it on them, the setbacks that you had, the way you overcame them, and then in the last match you are not able to reach a final, obviously that it brings you a lot of deception. But deception doesn't feed anyone. We need to feed ourselves some other kind of emotions and feelings, and when the values inside the structure they are strong, you can lift quicker. So basically that's what we did. I think that we already overcame that question. With pain, yes. With big pain, yes. But it's very important to feel the pain, because only when you feel the pain, it means that you are leaving something that was taken from you and you were attached to it. So that's how we felt, that we wanted so much something that we could not get, and the way it was done, it was also not so simple to overcome. It's always easier when you take 3 on the shin, 3-0, 4-0, and you say we played nothing, the guys are 10 times better than us. Those defeats are easier to overcome, because you just need to understand we need to work more and nothing more. But as I always say, working for future is working on the future. Is what happens to you doesn't define yourself as a person. What defines you is what you do, with what happens to you. And that's what I try to bring my team to think about. What will speak for us is not what happened, but what will happen. And if we relate with those kind of knowledges, of understandings, of way of being and behaving, that's the only way you can develop, because we have still so much to play. There's a Champions League semi-final to be played, and after there's a championship to be won that is far away from being finished. And we need to be so strong to win it, so strong, because we have all the odds against us, at least people betting against us. But that's the spirit we have. We are gathering ourselves for a long time around the objectives, around the strengths, around the positive things, rather than what makes us weaker. And as we say, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And that's the spirit we have inside the club.
Coach, thank you very much. Grant, thank you very much. To both of you, we wish you all the best going tomorrow in Saturday's match.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, members of the media.
Thank you very much. Cheers.